Hey guys, this is your review for Chapter 12, Part 1 test, Chapter 12, Part 1. And on this test, remember you have 6 multiple choice, and you have 4 free response, short answer, but what you really need to know about it is that it's all the math stuff. Okay? It's going to be covering stoichiometry. It's going to be covering mass-to-mass conversions with stoichiometry, mole-to-mole with stoichiometry, mole-to-mass with stoichiometry. But all of it is dealing with stoichiometry. Okay, so let's get started. All right, you have your steps. If you don't have your steps, here's a pretty picture of your steps. Okay, I'm going to move it over here out of the way, and I'm going to show you our very first problem. Here's your first problem. Sulfuric acid, H2SO4, is formed when sulfur dioxide, SO2, reacts with oxygen and water. And it tells us 3 different things to do. What I'm going to do for you is right now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to write that balanced chemical equation. That way you don't have to do that. Because on your test, you're not going to have to actually write a chemical equation. You will have to balance one of them, but you don't have to write one from scratch. So here is your balanced chemical equation for the very first problem. SO2 plus O2 plus 2H2O. That yields 2H2SO4. So that's your balanced chemical equation. So we've already done A. Done with A. Okay, now we're going to make this a little bit smaller to get out of the way a little bit more. Now what you're going to do is you're going to do B. B says how many moles of H2SO4 are produced from 12.5 moles of SO2. The first thing you have to do is you have to say, what kind of problem is this? That way I know what steps I need to use. So you look at the question. You look at some key words. You look at key units. I see the word moles. I see that I need to find moles. I also see another word, moles. I am given moles. So if I see moles twice, looking over here at my steps, is it going to be a mole-to-mole, mole-to-mass, or mass-to-mass? Remember, you're given the word moles twice in your question. Mole-to-mole, or mole-to-mass, or mass-to-mass. I am hoping that since you saw the word moles twice, you're looking at your steps, you see the words mole twice, and you know that it is a mole-to-mole. I'm hoping for that. Make that a little bit, too small. Make that a little bit smaller, move it out of our way. Okay, so you look at your steps, and remember the steps we're looking at are these here because it's mole-to-mole. And you look at them, and the first thing that you do is you write your given. This is the first thing you should do every single time. Not one of you should have an empty blank test when you turn it into me. You should at least have the given written down. So I look at it, I look at my question. The only thing that's given to me, the only thing I see that's given to me is the number 12.5 moles of SO2. That is the only thing I see given to me, the only number. So I'm done with step 1. Step 2 says to write the mole ratio. This is where it can be a little tricky. The mole ratio is going to come from your equation. It's going to come from this thing right here. I need to look at what I'm going from and what I'm going to. I'm going from SO2 and I'm going to H2SO4. So look at my equation. This is for SO2. This is for H2SO4. Then I look back down in my railroad tracks, and I see that I am trying to cross out moles of SO2. So then I look back at my equation and say, oh, okay, I can do that because right here I have moles of SO2. That's going to go on bottom, so I can cross it out. Oops. Then I look at my other portion of the ratio, and that's going to go on top because that's the only place that we have open for it. I cross out my moles. I'm left with moles. I look back at my steps. The last thing I need to do is simply calculate. Multiply everything on top, divide by everything on bottom, and I should get, go ahead and calculate, you should get 12.5 moles of H2SO4. And that is your answer for B. Okay? Let's look at C. Now it's asking how many moles of oxygen are needed. Well, you do the same thing. Let me rewrite our equation. Sorry about that. I erased that as well. Okay, I look at the question to figure out what type of question it is. I see the word moles here. They're still going with the same given from up here. So what kind is it? I am hoping you're saying mole to mole because you see 2 moles. So one more time, we are using these bad boys there, those directions. I want you to pause the video right now, and I want you to try it all by yourself. Go ahead, pause, and I'll be come back. Okay, after you've done it, this is what you should do. First thing is just write your given. The given is still 12.5 moles of SO2. Number 2 says to write my mole ratio. I look up in my equation. I'm dealing with this, and I'm dealing with this. I see that SO2 is on top, so that now has to go on bottom. So I have 2 moles of SO2. And every time I have 2 moles of SO2, I have 1 mole of O2. Cross out my moles. Step 3 says to calculate. So in my calculator, multiply everything across the top, divide by everything on bottom. And you should get 6.25 moles of O2. Okay? All right. Those are 2 examples of mole to mole conversions with stoichiometry. I'm going to go ahead and pause this video or stop this video and make a new one, and we're going to talk about mole to mass.